Imagine owning the IP for Vaporeon for over 20 years and still not making a dating sim. Asmon, what's going on, bro? Palworld already has a Pokemon mod. Oh my god. What?
Did you
know Palworld already has Pokemon? That's right, the first mod pack for Palworld is already out, and it is an overhaul converting everything into Pokemon. Everything from the playable character being Ash, from his friends Brock and Misty, to even all the Pokemon that inhabit the world. And even the first boss fight is Jessie from Team Rocket. If you want to check out this mod pack for yourselves, the full video will be on my channel tomorrow. Did you know?
Wow. So yeah, if you missed Balatro and the Palworld stream, I also played Palworld, and I think Palworld is very interesting, and I've talked about it. I think Palworld's success is less an indication of how good Palworld is, and don't get me wrong, Palworld is very good. It is a worthwhile game, but it is more an indicator of how shitty Pokemon has been. It's just been so stagnant, and I know a lot of you will say Arceus was a great step forward, and I think in a way it was, but ultimately it also felt like a big step back.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Like a lot of the lore that they introduced in Arceus was stupid. It was dumb.
Oh, yeah, wow.
This idea that like Pokemon want to be small and like they have a genetic imperative in them to like shrink when they're hit with orbs. I was like, oh my god, this is Star Wars Metachlorians. It is amazing to me that a game that was essentially supposed to be like a meme game has a better set of lore than the canon Pokemon franchise. That should not be that way. That should not be a thing. I hope Game Freak takes a note of this and is like, holy shit, if we make a game that has like new mechanics in it and is like, it expands our core franchise, we could do, because they've made a lot of games like Pokemon Detective, Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Stadium that like, don't worry, they won't. Well, then I think Palworld will eclipse them. I know that's crazy to say, but like, I just think that like people have been waiting for this, and maybe it's not Palworld that capitalizes on it. Maybe it's Digimon, maybe it's Monster Rancher, maybe it's something else. But dude, I'm not buying Pokemon games anymore. They're bad. They're fucking bad. The last Pokemon game when it was released was an embarrassment. I know a lot of people fucking ride for Pokemon, but it was broken, dude. It was a broken game. And at a certain point, if you're a fan of Pokemon, if you want them to do better, you have to stop buying their trash. Their kids games, that's a bullshit take. I'm sorry, that's a bullshit take. Pikmin is a kids game. When it was released, it wasn't broken. I don't know what to say. Luigi's Mansion is a kids game. When it was released, it worked. Like the bugs in the last Pokemon release, on release, were inexcusable. Scarlet and Violet, those games were like broken when they were released. Like the kind of bugs you would see in like indie titles and alpha. Like, what? I'm saying this as a person who loves Pokemon, by the way. I'm saying this as a person that loves... There's Squirtle in the background. Here's my Whale Lord. Here's all my Pokemon shit. I love Pokemon. I think Pokemon is great. But like, your fan base is rabid for an experience that expands on Pokemon. And you have an unlimited budget. It's not like Game Freak is some small dev where I'm like, hey, you should really work harder. And it's like, oh, but we only have 10 people working. It's like, huh? To me, it's like... It's so obvious that Pokemon has stagnated and rested on their laurels and not released worthwhile titles and phoned it in so many ways as like a fan of the franchise. And every year I'm like, dude, if they would just release an open world, if they would just release a real open world game, it would be so insane. It would be so insane. And here comes Palworld. You can't look at Palworld and not be impressed. It's the #1 selling game in the world right now. There's 2 million concurrent players right now. That's crazy. That's fucking nuts. Now, I do think people will burn out Palworld very fast. I think in a month, the number of players will decline greatly. But they're going to make a freaky amount of money. Palworld is at 5 million concurrent players. No, sold. Okay. I was about to say. Dude, that is crazy. That is crazy that Palworld has sold 5 million copies. Like, okay, let's be conservative. How many copies do we think Palworld will sell total when it's done? 10 million? Do you think they'll get to 10 million titles? 20 million? I don't know if it'll make 20 million. I think it'll get to 10, which I know you guys are like, when I said, yo, it could compete with Pokemon, everybody was like, no shot. Fuck you, idiot. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet sold 23 million copies. If Palworld can do 10 million copies with its first release, that's essentially like a low budget. That's crazy. Currently, we are receiving slanderous comments about our artists, and we are seeing tweets that appear to be death threats. Palworld CEO responded to the allegations that Palworld 3D models that copied 3D models of Pokemon. Interesting. By the way, I'm going to say something. If you are of the ilk of people that are really upset at Pokemon for copying or Palworld for copying Pokemon, then you also have to be mad at Pokemon for copying Dragon Warrior, because so many of the Dragon Warrior designs got recycled in Pokemon. Not many people ever focus on this. I think they actually have a comparison somewhere. Yeah, here it is. Just so you know, these are all the Dragon Warrior monsters that predate Pokemon. And you can see how many of these designs were directly recycled, basically. Some of these are stretches. I mean, these are, this and this are as similar as some of the Pokemon and Palworld things. Like, obviously, Palworld is paying homage to Pokemon, obviously. But, like, that's like trying to say that Pokemon is the only monster game. I'm going to be honest. The one that I think it resembles more closely is Digimon. I see a bunch of Digimon in this. Because Digimon had monsters that have like weapons. Like this looks like a Palworld. Digimon designs are better. I agree with that. I think Digimon designs are some of the best designed like monster franchise ever. They're interviewing the Palworld guys on JPTV. None of them knew how to develop a game. We all learned on the job, budget of $10,000. Game Freak in shambles. Most of the models and gun stuff done by some middle schooler who was working part-time at a convenience store and devs went to. Originally, they wanted to do Unity, but they realized it was laggy. The decision to make it Pokemon with guns was because they were worried the game would not be a global success unless they added guns, because Americans like shooting things. Amazing. The gender-neutral Type A character creator was likewise because Americans sometimes want to make very ugly characters. Okay, dude, I feel seen. Anyway, I don't want to talk too much about Palworld. Other than that, I've been enjoying it. I don't think it has to be much deeper than that. And I think as I said, I hope it just motivates Game Freak to go further. Is it worth a buy? At $30, I think absolutely. I think you have at least 10 really good hours in Palworld just fucking around and exploring the weird, dumb shit you can do in the game.